Hello everybody, SSA here, aka Super Soon Arashi, and welcome to the ArashiDex. In this series I will showcase one individual Pokemon and show you how to use it competitively from my own personal experience. If you have any suggestions for the ArashiDex, leave them in the comment section below or send me a tweet. But without further ado, let's dive into this episode of the ArashiDex. In today's entry, we're going to take a look at a mon I've used in the last two FBL seasons, and that is the bouquet Pokemon Roserade, who is a grass poison type. In order to get Roserade, you have to get a Budew, who you have to evolve with happiness into Roselia, and then you use this shiny stone on Roselia to get Roserade. Now Roserade stats are very versatile. You can either use it specially defensive, or you can actually use it specially offensive. In terms of physical stats, Roserade is not the best, and its speed is average to good at best. But I've used Roserade for the last two FBL seasons, and I think I did a pretty well job to make Roserade versatile. And I'm going to show you guys how I did it in the last two FBL seasons. So first off, we're going to take at the defensive option for Roserade. And most of the times, if you take a defensive Roserade, you have to equip it with the Black Sludge. That's the best option for Roserade. Other options, there aren't that many. So always go for the Natural Cure. I mean, if you are going for an offensive Roserade, you can also work out with Technician, but in my opinion, Natural Cure is the best ability for Roserade, because if you get burnt, if you get paralyzed, you can always switch out and it will cure itself, and you can always use Roserade as a sort of mon to, you know, sacrifice it for a status condition and then switch back out so that you have the upper hand again. So if we are going to take a look at the defensive Roserade, the special defensive Roserade, you can see that you should run Calm Nature, which boosts special defense and lowers attack, because you'll never go for a physical Roserade. And you put your IVs mostly in HP and special defense, and you can always, you know, be a bit cautious with speed. You can also, you know, put less investment HP and more in speed, so you can probably, you know, speed out some of your opponent's mon, but that is based on your opponent's mon, of course, the team of your opponent. So I would suggest that like 36 EVs on speed and the rest in HP is the best option, but it depends on your own personal taste, of course. And if you look at the moves, you can run Toxic Spikes or Spikes. This also depends on your opponent's team. If your opponent has more steel types or poison types, I suggest you go for Spikes instead. But most of the time Toxic Spikes is the one you run out with. You can also take a risk and go for Toxic instead, but I rather go for the Toxic Spikes with the special defensive Roserade, because you never know how much in the end game that could help you out. So because this is a special defensive, I suggest Giga Drain so you can get some HP back, Synthesis if you want to stall out some of your opponent with Toxic, and this is my own personal taste, but I always run Sleep Powder on Roserade. That is very risky with the 75 accuracy, but most of the time it can work out so well. If your opponents decide to switch out into a mon that can take the Sleep Power, that's all good. I mean, I always run Sleep Powder. I suggest you could always, you know, go for a other move like Hidden Power Fire. But my opinion, Sleep Powder is the best way to do it. And that is, in my opinion, the best way how to run a special defensive Roserade, in my personal opinion. As I said before, you can always, you know, experiment some stuff out with the speed crit, but I think this Roserade is as it should be used the best, because a special defensive Roserade, it can still hit hard looking at its special attack, but if you want, you can always pump up that special attack with an even more special attacking Roserade. So if we look here, I've made a Roserade holding the Life Orb Natural Cure ability. As I said, always run Natural Cure ability, because that is the best ability for Roserade in my honest opinion. And if we look at the moveset, Leaf Storm, Sludge Bomb, again Toxic Spikes, you can put Spikes or Toxic as well, and of course Sleep Powder. instead of Sleep Powder, because this is a more offensive Roserade, you can use Hidden Power Fire, you can use Extra Sensory for that extra coverage, Dazzling Gleam of course. So let's say we're going for a Dazzling Gleam, that's also perfectly fine. And if we look at the ability, you should always go for a Timid Nature, because that speed does matter at that point. But put your investment in, wait, I think the best way that you should do is this. You should always put your EVs more in speed than in HP. And of course special attack, and put the rest in special defense. Again, you can try to, you know, crit, speed crit, and put like investment in special defense on your own personal taste. That's all fine, but in my opinion this works the best way. In my opinion, I've used this set also a lot in FPL matches, and in my opinion it works perfectly fine. Instead of Dazzling Gleam, I of course have Sleep Powder, because I always run Sleep Powder on my Roserade, because I don't know, it is something I've used a lot, and I think a lot of people, especially if you start out with competitive battling, it's a nice little trick you can use in order to slow the opponent down. But yeah, this is like the sets I've most of the time used with Roserade. In order to, you can always watch my Roserade compilation from the first season of FBL, so you can actually see a bit how it works. But in my opinion, Roserade is a very underrated mon. It's, as I said, very versatile. You can either use it special defensive or special offensive, and it's not that slow. Its speed is average to best, but when you play with Roserade, you see that its speed is actually not that bad at all, especially if you put some investment into it. But I think that's all for this entry of the ArashiDex. This is still something new for me to, you know, explain about competitive side of Pokemon. I hope it does help some of the people out there who wants to, you know, improve themselves when it comes to competitive side. I've had that same problem in the beginning, and I just, you know, want to do my bit in helping people the same way some people helped me in the beginning. So if you have any questions, leave it down in the comment section below. If you have any suggestions, leave it in the comment section below. But that concludes this episode of the ArashiDex, and I will see you guys in the next one. So if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment, share this video with others, slash the subscribe button down below. I would really appreciate that. And I will see you guys in the next entry for the ArashiDex. Bye bye!